Stampers, welcome to the craft room. In today's video I'd like to show you how you can upcycle your toilet paper rolls to create some really great treat or gift holders for all different occasions. I was actually incredibly inspired by a post that I saw on Jan Henning's blog and also by some other ideas that I saw on Pinterest, so I just want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit is due. So let's get started. To begin with, you are going to need to use up the toilet paper in your bathroom because we need to use one toilet paper roll, and we're also going to be using some designer series paper. And I have a piece here of the Comfort Cafe designer series paper, and how I figured out the size that I needed was I took actually a tape measure that I had gotten at IKEA when I was there, but you can use any kind of fabric tape measure. And I just measured the length of my tube, which is 4 inches. And then I also went ahead and wrapped this around the tube and found that it was about 5 1/4 inches. So I decided to round up to 5 1/2 just to make sure that I had the entire tube covered. So I've gone ahead and cut this 4 inch by 5 1/2 inch piece of Comfort Cafe designer series paper. So let's adhere it to our roll. I'm going to be using some Tombow Mono multi-glue, and I'm just going to put a very light bead of glue. I actually have the tip of the Tombow touching the paper as I'm doing this, and you just want to make sure that you get the edges really well. And then we're going to come in and just do a whole bunch of the inside as well. And that looks pretty sufficiently covered. So then what we're going to do is actually roll our toilet paper roll. So I'm going to move this up so that you can see. I'm going to start somewhere near the bottom. So just making sure I'm lining things up, and then I'm going to press down. And then I'm going to come first further down to try to pick up that edge of the paper. And then I am going to roll, and you can hold the paper down, you can kind of press it as you go. And I'm just going to roll, trying to keep track of where my edge is against the toilet paper roll so that I'm not going cockeyed. That's my technical term for this. And you want to keep rolling until you get your entire roll covered. And then you really want to make sure that you're adhering that back seam. Then what I'm going to do is put the seam in the back. So that's now down on the bottom. And I'm just going to press down on the bottom of my toilet paper roll. There are a number of different ways that you can seal this off. You can seal it by using sticky strip. You can also use hot glue. And the tip that I picked up from Jan that I thought was really wonderful is to actually just go ahead and sew it, stitch it closed on the sewing machine. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and stitched that closed, and I made sure that I back stitched at the ends just to make sure that the thread doesn't come loose. And I'm just going to snip off these excess threads. The next thing we're going to do is a bit of stamping, so let me set this aside. And I'm going to bring in this stamp from the Mixed Bunch stamp set, and I'm going to just adhere that to this acrylic block. And for our stamping, I'm just going to grab this piece of Naturals Ivory cardstock. We're going to work on that scrap. And I'm also going to grab my Cajun Craze Stampin' Pad. And now we're going to use the Blossom Punch to punch out our flower. With the new Stampin' Up! Ink pads, you actually get a much darker image. And I really like the shabby chic look, so if you were using one of the new foam ink pads, you could stamp off once or twice to get this lighter coverage of ink if that's the look that you are looking for your project. We're also going to do a little bit of sponging with our Cajun Craze, so I'm just going to bring in this sponge and just slightly sponge around the edges, trying to get in between those petals a little bit. This gives it a little darker color. The next thing we're going to do is stamp this little stamp, and I already have it stamped once here. It came out a little light for me, so let's go ahead and stamp that again. I'm just using the soft suede ink. There we go. And then we're going to punch that out using our 3/4 inch circle punch. And while we're at it, we're just going to add a dimensional to the back of that circle and go ahead and adhere that to the center of our flower. And the other thing I'd like to add is one of our extra large adhesive pearls. So let's bring those in. These are the Jewel's Basic Pearl Large. And just going to stick one of those right in the center. So now we have that one embellishment done, so let's go ahead and set that aside and work on the other one. Next we're going to take this stamp from the Apothecary Art Stamp Set and another piece of Naturals Ivory cardstock and our soft suede ink pad, and we're just going to ink up this stamp and stamp this image onto here. And then we're going to use our Framelits Labels Collection die. Let me grab those and find the appropriate size in here, and I'm going to go and cut that out on the Big Shot, and I'll be right back. So now we have that cut out, and I'm just going to do a little bit of sponging around the edges. I probably still have enough ink left here. The next thing that we're going to do is stamp our greeting, and we might be able to get away with using this piece of cardstock down here. We're going to give that a try. And I'm going to be using this Happiest birthday greeting, which is also from the Apothecary Art Stamp Set. And we're going to use some Always Artichoke ink to ink that up. Let's see how close to the bottom edge I can get this. I'm determined to have it fit perfect. So I'm just going to take this over to my guillotine cutter and cut that out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we got that cut out on the guillotine cutter. The next thing we're going to do is just make that into a little banner. So I'm just going to go ahead and freehand cutting the edges, and I guess a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch away from the stamping. And then I'm just going to snip in from the center and then in from each corner to make that little banner, and do that on this side as well. And then we're also going to do just a tiny bit of sponging on this as well. The next thing we are going to do is create some edging. If you look at this toilet paper roll, you want to go ahead and create this border edging. You can do something like that with your scallop edge punch, but we're actually going to be using one of our edgelet dies from the Edgelets Adorning Accents collection. And I've just gone ahead and cut a piece of Cajun Craze cardstock. This is 8.5 by 1 inch. And what we're going to do is just line this up on the Big Shot somewhere around here or so. So I'm going to go and run this through the Big Shot, and I'll be right back. So it hasn't cut through to the edge since I didn't have my die all the way at my edge, and that is absolutely fine because all we need to do is come in with our paper snips, and you might be able to see this more easily on the back, and just go ahead and snip straight down to that last scallop. And this is actually going to be the perfect length for the project that we need, so you don't have to cut any of your scallops off. What I'm going to do is bring in our little treat container, and what we want to do is actually start on the back, and you know this is the back because of the seam, and we're lining up a scallop right at the edge here. And then we are going to go ahead and bend that around the container like that. And then you'll see we have that one extra scallop that comes back around. So it really makes a perfect scallop edge for us. In order to adhere this, what we're going to do is remove that. And I'm going to run a bead of Tombow Mono multi-glue pretty much near where my sewing or stitching is on the bottom of this container. That's a pretty good line to follow in terms of where we want this. And again, starting at the back, I'm going to go ahead and slip that, slip that back on. And I just want to make sure that it's hanging past the edge of the toilet paper roll so that all you see are the scallops, just like that. And then we're just going to finish this off with a little bit of Tombow glue right on that edge as we go ahead and fold that over.